Hi, it's Dave. Welcome. Today I'm joined by Randy Davis. He runs a YouTube channel called Terrafactory Texas, and he's also active on Twitter. I'll link in the video description below. I want to welcome you on the show, Randy.
Hey, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Happy
awesome.
to be here.
So here's the background of this video. I was out at the Terrafactory out here in Austin, Texas. I was trying out my new drone a few weeks ago for the first time, and next to me was Randy, and he seemed like he was a professional, just like doing his whole thing around the whole Terrafactory factory. And he helped me out with my drone, and we got started talking, and I found out he runs a great YouTube channel. And I wanted to invite him on my channel to explain the development of Austin, Tesla's factory, and to share some video on the before and after to really give us kind of a deep dive breakdown on what's going on in Austin. So yeah, I can't wait to talk about this and to look into it more. And so what we'll do is we'll switch to the full screen view of the video, and we'll have you kind of narrate, and I'll ask some questions as we go along the way.
All right, so what we'll start out with first is the early stages of the actual site where crews came in, and the first thing they needed to do was start clearing the land and leveling it. And so what we're looking at right now is the drone directly over. There's a bend in Harold Green Road, and Harold Green Road is the main access point to and from the construction site. As you'll see it come into frame here in just a moment. And this is exactly what the land looked like when Tesla first got it. It was you can see there's tons of standing water, just hill. I mean, the land was a wreck. And there was speculation about there being another site further north in Austin, actually pretty close to this road as well, this main highway right here. And I actually thought that would make more sense, because when you see this piece of land that we're looking at right now, you just wouldn't think that somebody would be able to come in and transform it into what we know it is today.
Wow, so this is the image basically before Tesla started their work.
Exactly. So here we jump forward a little bit, and we can see that a lot of the trees and vegetation has been cleared. And at the bottom of the screen, where we had a bunch of that standing water running along these power lines, you can see that they're actually filling in that particular area. And I mean, they actually did a lot of this work extremely fast, but it was just nonstop, removing dirt, scraping dirt, removing dirt from one area of the site to another area to kind of fill in those ponds and whatnot. And here at this particular moment, we can see this gray and white gravel aggregate mix, which was actually the first indications that they finished the leveling and clearing for this particular area, and they could actually start getting the land ready to go to start mapping out the foundations and whatnot.
Was it a bit marshy there, like kind of waterish? Did they have to fill in all that?
Yeah. I mean, this entire area, this land was just a wreck. And what you don't know is that the smell from that standing water is horrendous. And as we actually look back up towards the north right here, Tesla owns all of this land up all the way to I think FM 969, which is another road that's well north of here. I mean, there's a lot of land, but a lot of it is filled with little marshes and spots of standing water. And even on the other side of the highway, it's the exact same thing. So I mean, the land on both sides of the highway, it's in this condition. And so on whatever they have planned for those other areas on each side of the highway, it's going to have to undergo a similar undertaking of work to kind of get it in a usable state.
Got it. How long did this clearing and kind of grading take?
Yeah, maybe a 3 to 5 month range. As they were clearing certain parts of the site, basically as soon as one section was finished, as you can see, a particular section, when the section is finished, they would go ahead and start the next phase of whatever's scheduled to take place there. And then over here, not like all these other sections that you're seeing, they're still continuing with the leveling and clearing, just because it's just a large site. And so as vehicles would transition after finishing their particular roles and responsibilities in one area, they would move to the next area that needs that same type of work done.
Around what month was this footage, you think?
I think September.
September, okay.
Yeah, so they started late July, August, and then in September is pretty much about where you're seeing this take place. We had a quick look at kind of what most of the finished foundation with that aggregate mix looks like. It covered most of the area of the where the footprint of the factory is supposed to be. Here we jump to the casting area where this is an early look at right now these three dark gray rectangles that you can see. Those are foundations for where actual casting machines will go, and you can see that they're actually raising the columns that will actually support the roof structure that goes over this as well. And to the right, where you can kind of see the orange lift, that's the rumored paint shop. So let's just say right now that everything that I'm saying and that we're seeing is speculation because Tesla has not released updated site plans since the ones that they released in late August, I believe, and so and so we just kind of hear from either different people working at the site, people delivering to the site, just or anybody who's been able to get any information on this particular project. They try to share it with us so that we can be sure to mention it to all of our viewers, so that they're in the loop as well. Here's an updated look at the roof structure, the initial roof structure over top of the casting area, and as we can see now, that paint shop area to the right where we saw the lift previously, we can kind of see that a lot of the paint equipment is being moved into place on the second level. And I'd never seen a real paint shop before, and I mean this is a massive operation, and just everything that involves the actual site size of the site, the logistics have just been amazing. I mean, you have steel deliveries like we can see on the ground right there. There's staging for paint shop modules. I mean, casting equipment. I mean, everything just it shows up to the shop. There's always a place to put it until it's needed. And the big thing is lots of times whenever things do arrive on the site, they don't sit there for very long. I mean, it's like as soon as something's there, hey, let's get it installed right away. And so, I mean, they work very efficiently and very quickly. Here we get a great shot at the bridge crane that's going to be used to help install the other casting machines, as well as the equipment or the materials that are going to be used in the casting process. And in the background, we can actually see the work being done on that first casting machine that's been installed. And so many people have actually been wondering, why didn't they install all of the casting machines at the same time that are supposed to go here? And, that's a question nobody really knows except, Tesla.
So right now we're looking at the paint shop behind us?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. So all of
And
that
so we can see,
are paint machines or something?
yeah,
Okay.
paint modules, yes.
Hmm.
And so from what it looks like, there's going to be two lines right here, and right now they're just kind of getting all the modules in place. And later on, you'll see that everything has actually been connected together. As you can see, there's gaps in between all these white modules right there, and so I mean it's a really intricate and cool operation to see kind of come together.
So right there, it's two floors, right? That paint shop.
Correct.
Is most of the
Yes.
area two floors?
Yes, most of the factory is two floors. There are specific areas in different buildings where there are three levels and maybe even the fourth. It just depends on kind of what you want to call a full floor, because sometimes when there is like a fourth, it doesn't look like it spans like the whole footprint of that particular section of the factory. And so right here, we're at the south end of the site, and this is actually the stamping press area. And right here, this is something that's super cool that all of us had fun actually learning about. These are called isolation foundations, and so what they do is that they dig this massive pit, and this is after they prepped everything, got everything nice and flat and pristine, and then they just started digging right back into it. And so they dug this deep down into the ground, and they built this foundation. And what it's designed to do is whenever the large stamping machines come down and every time they press, they absorb the vibrations so that it doesn't shake the factory, disrupt everything in the factory, and basically shake the factory to the ground. And so amazing technology, and that's just kind of how they get it started. So they start deep underground, and there's like underground rooms and maintenance tunnels and just things for workers to walk through and access down there. And so this is a look from the very far end of the factory, far south end of the factory, looking back to the north.
How far? When was this clip taken?
Yeah, so yeah, these isolation foundation clips are from November, and so they work pretty quickly. And the theme that you'll see is that in lots of these sections, you'll start to see similar building practices, such as these large concrete columns being raised here and supporting a roof structure. Now, to date, the only places where we've seen this type of roof structure is directly over the stamping machine area right here, and also at the north casting machine area, which we were previously looking at. So, this is a good shot at, when we turn around, like directly across this on the other side. We don't know if the design of the final building is to have all four corners to be constructed like this, which I think would be pretty cool. But again, we won't know until we get some final designs released. Okay, so right here, this is I think one of the most current looks as of when we got these clips together, and this is after they've covered this entire section with that finished concrete mix. They come back and they put the insulation. So in all these white stacks are just large squares, different types of squares of three particular layers of insulation that they put down, and then they cover it with a membrane. And as of right now, which we won't see in this footage because they've just done this work so fast, this was actually the first day in which they actually started this process, and it looks like a bunch of people there. But what we kind of gathered, amongst talking in our Quad Squad thread and also just in the comments, this kind of looks like a situation where they're kind of showing everybody, hey, this is how we want to do this. This is how we want to lay the pattern down. This is, it has to be this type first, followed by this layer on top, and so forth. And then after that, I mean, they completely covered this thing. I'd probably say about 95% is covered right now with the final white layer. That we know of, if the final layer is going to be that white one. They did that in about a week. When at first it looked like, man, it's going to take a while for them to actually do all of that, and they just hit the ground running after that first day and just got it done like super fast. This area right here, this is the general assembly area, and so this is, as we can see in the background over there, that is the actual paint shop and body and white sections that we were previously looking at from the other side. And so along this side, so we're closer to the highway now. So from south to north that we're looking right now, this is where we think all the general assembly activities and production processes will take place. And again, this is another one of the steel structures, and as you can kind of notice on this side, we're basically in the middle of the factory, and again, we're not touching the corner. So everything on this side and the other side directly across from it, you can see is strictly structural steel. And so, which that again kind of leads us to believe that maybe all four corners will consist of the concrete column and the concrete wall panels that we see all over the site. And right here, along this entire section, you can see some of the docking bays that are in place, and that raises another question. We clearly don't see all of the docking bays needed to bring materials for the day-to-day operations. So the question is, where are those other bays going to be built at?
What was that kind of ground area we saw just in that last clip at the very end?
Yeah, that was actually the battery cell production. So that northwest corner, that's where all of the battery cell production is going to take place. And so it's interesting that we find out what it should be, allegedly, speculate. It's a speculation. But then we see, these two large trenches dug right next to each other, and then they're both built the same. And then as of right now, which again, this started after this footage was put together. They have actually started to really go to town building the steel structure there. And so, and that's, as of yesterday, they've maybe gotten like one or two sections built out to the north consisting of steel.
What's interesting about kind of going to the site and then seeing drone footage and comparing them, I think there are a few things that drone footage doesn't completely capture. Like, for example, the activity. There's so many people working there. Like the hustle, right? The drone footage
Yes.
kind of sterilizes that. It doesn't. It's like taken from far back. And then the other thing is the scale of the site, and it's one thing to see it in videos, another thing to see it in person, but also to navigate your drone just going way out there, where you can't see it anymore, just going around the whole building. It's sobering in some senses. Like, I know. How about you? Do you think, like, are there certain aspects of the drone footage you think aren't conveying the actual experience?
Absolutely. One thing that I still notice is that on Harold Green Road, and usually whenever a lot of us that go out there come in and fly over the site, or people just, it's it's crazy, the community that is interested in this thing. As we're filming, 9 times out of 10, as you and I actually met, people will pull up exactly right next to the factory and just get out, take their phones out, and just film the factory and just take pictures of it, take selfies with it in the background, and they just the buzz about it and around town is just incredible. I haven't, I honestly have not heard a single negative thing about the factory from anybody that I know of, even on Twitter, like from anybody. Just anybody that's here locally. Everybody, like, they recognize what it's going to do for the area. And so, where we usually park on the side, I don't know if I've just become like numb to always seeing it from that point of view, but in the few occasions when I actually have driven down Harold Green Road and maybe needed to turn around or just stop and do something right there, and I actually looked at the factory from that point of view, it looks bigger to me when I look at it with my own eyes from that north to south point of view. It's really hard to explain, but when you see it for the first time, it's just massive. You're standing there, and you can look as far as you can see, and it's just factory. Factory. It just keeps going, and so it's very hard to convey. And I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about the amount of workers that work there. I think just because the site is so big, it's hard to really imagine how many workers there, because they're so spread out. And recently, probably maybe the last month and a half ago, they actually created like a dedicated parking lot area. They kind of lined everything up nice and neat, and cleaned up some logistics with, where workers are having to park. And they actually have buses running routes to kind of drop workers off, during shift change and whatnot. And you can just see the amount of cars that are always parked there. It's just amazing just how many workers, trades, everybody involved on the site.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, man. Randy, I want to thank you for preparing the footage and for, taking your drone out with the other Quad Squad folks. And we appreciate you updating us and with what's going on. It's exciting stuff. Yeah, definitely. The factory's coming up, and we're going to see Cybertrucks and Model Ys and hopefully other cars and batteries produced there. So I'm going to go ahead and link to your YouTube video or channel, and also your Twitter profile for folks to follow you. And wanted to thank you again for just your time and your efforts.
Hey, thank you, Dave. Great meeting you.
Appreciate it, man. All right, bye.